Alright guys, this is Mrs. Shaw and I just wanted to get you started on printmaking. So you have a couple pieces of paper in your art kit. We're going to be using the thick watercolor paper. And you're going to be using your foam piece that's in there. And we're going to cut this, so you're going to need a pair of scissors. And I'm using a Sharpie just because it's easier for you to see on camera when I draw. But I really encourage you to use a pencil when you draw. So let's get started. First, look. If I fold this in half, I get this size. And I put it on my paper, this size prints very nicely on this whole thing. If you want to go smaller, like some of the examples that we're going to see that you already saw, then you want to take this and cut it in half again. And then you get smaller pieces like this. So decide if you want to go with big prints or if you want to go with smaller prints. Okay, I personally like the smaller prints because I think it's really fun to print and I like the detail that I'm going to be able to get. So here's the big difference. I drew on this one. My theme is going to be ice cream sundaes. I had a strawberry banana sundae the other day and I want another one, so it's been on my mind for a while and it's all about me. It's all about self-expression. So I picked a sundae. So I picked some cherries. That's going to be one of my prints, and then the next thing's going to be a spoon. So I want you to see how I drew the spoon. I left these gaps in it so that when I print, it looks like the shine and the shading sort of the spoon, the highlights where the light hits it. These cherries, I left these little gaps in the leaves and I left these little shines in the cherries themselves to look more detailed. So if you decide to go with a bigger piece to work with, it's probably because you want to add some extra detail. That's the only reason you probably should go with big. Or if you are really bad at cutting and you need something big to be able to cut good, then go ahead and stick with big. If you're good at cutting and you can get some of the detail, then go ahead and go small. And this cherry that I did, it doesn't have all the extra shading and all the extra highlighting that my other cherry is going to have. It's going to be real plain. Because it's so much smaller, it's going to be a lot harder to cut. So I left it just plain. The spoon, same thing. I'm going to leave it completely plain and not cut anything in it. So I'm going to cut these out and then I'll restart the video real quick, okay? Give me a second. Okay, so now you have some choices to make. So if you want the cherries to look like this, then you have to get rid of the background and keep the cherries in really good, a really good look. So here's what I did. I went ahead and cut the cherries out. I cut with a pair of scissors. I just cut right through it and then cut around it. I'm going to put a piece of tape on this so that I can keep this part. So you need to decide when you print. Are you going to print with this part or are you going to print with this part? And I'm going to show you what both of them look like. So when I cut these out, I cut them out very carefully where I can just tape them back together right there so that I can print. If you don't want this line right there, the one that you have to print, then what you have to do is, let me say that again. If you choose, you want to print with this background, and you'll see what they look like in a second. You want to print with the background, you want to throw this away instead. This is what you like the best, and I'll show you what they look like. Then if you don't like this cut, then what I need you to do is I need you to like stab the work and then cut inside the shape. And cut only inside the shape so that you can keep the back completely intact. And that way you throw away the spoon. Because I care, in this one, I'm going to care about the background, not about the spoon. So I'll show you that looks like in a second. Okay, so here's what I have cut. I cut these out, I cut those out, and I cut the spoon out. It came out in a bunch of different pieces because I just cut it out real quick. So it came out a bunch of pieces, but I have this spoon that doesn't have any cuts in it. So that's going to be your choice. I hope you remember that. A second ago I told you. Here I cut the cherries. I don't want the background. Here I want the cherries. So I have all my pieces cut. And remember, I have two projects going on at the same time. You don't need this many. I just have this many for the example. So you get to choose if you want to go big or if you want to go small. Okay? So I'm going to start putting ink on these and I'm going to start printing. So I have a paintbrush and I have some ink. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put ink on here. I'm sorry, this is acrylic paint. I don't know what I said, ink. You know what? Now that I'm thinking of it, do not do it on your piece of paper. If you get ink on this, you're gonna mess it up real bad. Get like a separate sheet of paper and put your paints on that. Give me a second. So this is a separate sheet of paper. Just a scrap notebook paper, any kind of paper you have. Just put a sheet down, paper towel, whatever. Put that down then paint. That way, if you go off like that, it's no big deal. You still have your good paper. So go ahead and put paint on it. So let me finish putting paint on this for you. Okay, so see, fully painted. I ended up making a big mess. So it's a good thing that that's actually kind of cool looking. But so here we go. This is called registration, where you line it up on your paper. I want a little border on mine, and you probably should too. So I'm just going to lay it down nice and gentle, and I'm just going to press it down. I got ink on my hands because it was coming out from before. I, again, would love for you to grab a separate sheet of paper. And every time you do this, you need a clean sheet of paper. So I'm putting it right down here. I'm going to put a clean sheet of paper so I can press on it, because my hands have paint on them and I can really mess up my printing paper. So I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to get just a sheet of paper, tear it in half. I'm going to put it right on top so that I can press and not get my paper dirty. And this paper is probably messy, so I can't use this again. This is just going to go in the trash, and I'm going to use a separate one. So I'm going to go ahead and lift this, and there's my spoon. Okay? That's what it looks like. If you go the other way, I want to show you the cherries. I'm going to put some ink on the cherries real quick, and then I'm going to print so you can see what they look like different. So I went ahead and put 3 spoons on purpose, and I gridded them the way I wanted with the space that I wanted, just so that I can center my cherries. If I would have gone spoon, then cherries, then spoon, then my cherries might not be in the middle, and that's going to bother me. So I went ahead and put the ink on my cherries. I call it ink because in printmaking we always use ink, even though we are using registration means I place them where I want. I have a brand new sheet of torn paper so that my hands are clean. Because see, my hands are so dirty, they're going to get it everywhere. So I'm going to press on here, and I don't have to worry about ruining my actual project. Think about your colors, by the way. I picked orange just because I already had it. It would have been nice if I would have picked maybe like a gray, silver type color to represent the spoon, and maybe red for my actual cherries. But you can go with whatever color you want. So there they are. I'm going to lift them up, and there they are. So you see how when you use the back, the leftover pieces that are cut, they look like a square. And when you use the actual pieces, they look like that, and they have that around them. So those are what it looked like. If you use only these, without any of these, you're going to end up having to print a crazy amount to try to fill up your space. If you use only these right here without the actual object you cut out, they still end up looking pretty nice. So you can go either way. You can alternate like I did, or you can use only the negative spaces, or you can use only the positive spaces. Whatever you want, go ahead. You're going to fill up your whole sheet. You're going to print your whole sheet. Then we're going to start drawing on top of this after it dries. And it takes just 1 day to dry, so it's no big deal. It dries within a few minutes. So fill up your space, and then we're going to draw on top of this. I'm going to do another one for when I start my drawing that you're going to see with these examples in them, so you see what that looks like too. All right, guys, have fun.